God knew what Adam did not know. God could see ahead what Adam could not see. God could measure the need of Adam that even Adam did not realize. And because of that, he said, it is not good that the man will be alone. I will make him an help meet, fit, suitable for him. And he made that woman, and he himself divinely guided that woman will be brought to the man. And you should still believe today that God is still able to bring the other part, the life partner, the wife, the husband unto you. So we consider the point of getting married. Marriage for singles. We need to find out what's the purpose after all of getting married. What's the purpose of having a family? Because you know there are people that will ask you, are you still thinking about marriage? You are 40 already. Now you must think about the purpose of marriage. If somebody came to you at the age of 40 and said, aren't you thinking about education? The first thing you want to ask is, at my age, what is the purpose of that education? And if that man will tell you this purpose, this purpose, this purpose, and you see that that education is even very necessary for the rest of your life, then you begin to think seriously about it. Now come back to marriage. Here now you are a lady and you are 30. You are a lady, you are 35. And some people might say, why not give up the idea? You are a man, you are 40 already, or you are more than 40 already. Somebody might suggest, why not give up the idea? Before you give up the idea, think about the purpose of marriage. Because if Jesus tarries, and if you are to live 70 years of age, if you are 40 now, 30 years still remains. And think about the purpose of marriage. Can I do without that purpose for the next 30 years? If you are 45 now, can I do without that purpose for the next 25 years? What then is the purpose of marriage? Sixfold. Number one, partnership. You know, sometimes that you could be so lonely in the midst of the crowd because there are deep, deep things in your heart you cannot share with everybody around. There are deep desires in your heart you cannot reveal to people around you. And you feel that you need a companion. You feel that you need a partner. You might be 40. If that need of partnership is there, that's the reason for marriage. You might be a lady and you are getting to 40 already and you are not married yet, and you always feel this loneliness and the need of companionship. That's the purpose of marriage. That's why God said it is not good that the man should be alone. Let me remind you that Adam had all human, earthly, material resources. The Garden of Eden was so beautiful for him to live in. And all those animals, you know, the excitement of the intellect, just giving names to those animals. And the position, the kingly position that God had placed him over everything that he had made. And the privilege, spiritual privilege he had, that God could be coming to him at the cool of the day, every time. Spiritual, material, and intellectual, and mental, and physical needs all surrounded him. All the things that he had. And yet God said, in the midst of plenty, in the midst of riches, in the midst of wealth, and even at the height of his intellect and education, it is not good that a man will be alone. You know, sometimes we make a mistake and we think, you know, I'm so rich, I can live in any part of the town I want. Yes, but you are rich and lonely. You know, some people say, you look at the mansion that I live in. It's almost like a palace. Yes, you live in a mansion, but you are lonely and you need partnership and you need a companion. That's why God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. You know, my brother, my sister, sometimes, even we Christians, we're so spiritual. We know the Bible. We've read the Bible through and through. And we can pray very, very much. And we're so spiritual. At the cool of every day, God is coming to have communion with us. And yet you are lonely. Because, you know, God has created you in such a way that you are incomplete. Except for a few people, very few people, like Paul the Apostle. Very few people like Jeremiah that didn't get married. But for the majority of the people, that need is there. And even at your age, if you're feeling that need of partnership, that's an indication, a tendency towards marriage. Number 2, procreation. That means that the child bearing. And if the need is there, you have a lot of property, you have a lot of riches, you have a lot of things, and you are wondering in your heart, you are not married, all these things that I have, when I die, who do I leave them to? Or do I just die and then strangers will come and share everything? And the people that don't have anything to do with me, not my blood relations, they'll just come and share everything. If you are thinking like that, you must be thinking about marriage. Because it's for procreation as well. And it's for legitimate pleasure. Listen to me. Legitimate pleasure. You see, God has created the human body in such a way that there is a need for the legitimate pleasure, physical pleasure, between a man and a woman, between a woman and a man. And if you have that pleasure outside marriage, you have guilt, you have condemnation, you feel dirty, you feel that the whole of the weight of this world is upon you. You become confused, you become defiled, and you cry, and you are sorrowful. Well, to stop all that crying, the legitimate way that God has provided that that pleasure of the body will be fulfilled without any guilt, without any condemnation, is through the avenue of marriage. Number 4 is the preservation of purity. Preservation of purity. That's why the Apostle Paul said to avoid fornication and remain pure and remain holy. That is, to remain so holy that all these evil thoughts will not be bothering you in your heart. Evil thoughts toward women, evil thoughts toward men. To avoid fornication and to avoid all that bad daydreaming. And to avoid all the secret things you are hiding in the heart that makes you to pray every time, oh God, why am I like this? Cleanse me and purge me and all that. He said, because of that, let every man have his own wife. Let every woman have her own husband. Number 5, for the purpose of protection. You see, the woman is called the weaker vessel. How it needs protection. You know, when you have a glass tumbler, a cup, and you have it at the edge of the table, and a little child is running there to go and play there, you run there to protect that cup because it can be broken. But if you have a piece of wood that you use in the kitchen and it's at the edge of the table and a child is playing there, you do not worry because that piece of wood is not the weaker vessel. It cannot break. You allow the child to play around that place. The woman is like the weaker vessel. You need protection. And the only protection that is so secured is that you get married and have a husband. Now you man, you might say, well, thank God I'm a man. I am so strong. You know, I think about Samson, that he had a weak point. You know, I think about Elijah, that he had a weak point. You know, I think about a lot of men in the Bible, and I think about you, man. You have a weak point. That weak point may be an emotional thing. That weak point may just be a social thing. That the way you react socially to other people is your weak point. That everything you have done for 5 or 10 years, because of that weak point, you can destroy everything. Or it may be an intellectual thing. That whenever you stand up, you make a fool of yourself. Whenever you open your mouth, and everybody sees that a fool is talking, but you are wonderful in other areas except that weak point. You need protection in that weak point. And who can protect you like a real God-sent, divinely appointed wife? You see, for the reason of protection, that's why we need a wife. And we need a husband. And then also for provision. For parents providing for children. And for a man providing for a wife. And for a wife providing for the husband. Now when I say that, when you are rich, you may not think that you need provision. But you know, sometimes you have money, but you don't know what to buy. And it is that good wife, heaven-sent wife, divinely appointed wife, that makes use of that money, and then is able to buy the things for you. It's your money, but then you don't know what to buy with it. And wife, you may have all the knowledge about this and that, and yet you need a provision greater than your own provision that you have. Because of these reasons, we need to get married. Now listen to me. Not just one reason. There are people that will examine only one reason about having children. And they say, well, my parents had so many children that I'm even catering for those children. And we do not need more children in our family anymore. All the children that my parents brought into the world, they're even enough for me to cater for. And because of that, I don't need to think about marriage. But you're only thinking of one out of many reasons of getting married. The children are there, the children of your parents to cater for. But how about your loneliness? How do you take care of that? How about the fact that you cannot legitimately fulfill the pleasures of the body? How about that? How about the preservation of purity in your life? How about that? Now you need to think about all the reasons. And if you see that in all these reasons, you need to really get married, then you need to begin to seriously think about all that the Lord is teaching us in this series. As of old, we still look up to God as the only perfect, unerring matchmaker who can lead and guide and choose a fitting partner for the unmarried. Now I'll talk about the unbelievers to start with, the sinner, the ignorance of the ungodly. You know, my friend, maybe you are not born again, and you're not a regular member of our church here. And then all these things I say about God providing for you, God choosing for you. And you might say, well, they are saying that about their church people. They are talking to their church members. That's all right for them. No, you need it too. Let me show you from the Word of God that those things you think are right by yourself, eventually you discover they are not right. In Proverbs chapter 16, verse 25, there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. If you try to choose by yourself without the light and the illumination of